Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the sessions in the Open House 2022. This is probably the hottest pillar right now. This is Ask CSD, Computer Science and Design. In this pillar, you learn all the things that you need to do to go out there, do great things with software. And to learn about it, we'll have a few people to talk about it here. Please welcome Director of Future Communication Center and Head of Pillar, Prof. Tony Kwek. Together with our industry guests and alumni from Citibank, Mr. Japan Mehta, from Cybersecurity Agency, Mr. Lim Soon Chia, from GIC and a CSD alumni, Mr. Edward Lok, and our current CSD junior, Mr. James Raphael Turvalen. So to start off this session, we'll have a short video to learn about CSD.
SUTD is computer science with design. We are facing three problems. One is we have too much data, right? With too much data, how do you have a system to handle that? We have fake news, trustworthy systems is very important. And last is actually you want a system to be sustainable. So SUTD is essentially will build systems that serve these three challenges. One really good example is a smartphone. If in a smartphone, you have computing chip, you have applications, you have connectivity, software, hardware. So for example, you have an AI chip. What does the AI chip? AI chip actually optimized in a way that to serve you better, understand your behavior, recommend services to you. The curriculum builds on actually three main concepts. One is computing, intelligence, and system implementation. Essentially with these three, you handle data, you talk about security, and building a system which is sustainable. We have 6 tracks. One of them is data analytics. So in the data analytics tracks, we build a curriculum to train students how to actually deal with the data they capture in different format, how you process it, how you analyze and understand it. The second track I'll elaborate a bit more is security. Besides handling data, you want to ensure your systems is secure and trustworthy. What is actually unique in the SUTD pillar? We have iTrust, we have actually a water test bed, we have a smart grid test bed, we have IoT test bed. Students actually can study on one hand and actually work on hands-on project with actual real test bed experiences. So in this track, you have the opportunity to learn about blockchain, system security, cyber physical security, data mining, machine learning. SUTD pillar, we train students, computer scientists, but we have a design thinking philosophy. So why is this important? Computing is integrated part of many systems, applications, product. But it's just one part. If you have the system perspective of looking at things as a system point of view, essentially your value increases. We have graduates actually promote in different parts of career very fast. Why? Because they look beyond themselves as a computer scientist. They can bring in design perspective, they can bring in system perspective, and put everything as one. And that's important. That makes our students unique. I have a graduate. She went through the SUTD curriculum. She was not good in programming, but 3 years down the road, she came back one day. She's a VP of a top banking company. Then what makes her really what she is today is the environment. The environment trained her the tools, gave her the confidence that she really can create anything which is possible. Hi, I'm Professor Tony Kwek. I'm head of Information System Technology and Design Pillar. If you want to become a computer scientist with design innovation, come join us.
Okay, thank you. So thank you everyone for attending this session. So I will kick off this panel discussion. Our first the topic is with the sudden change brought by the pandemic, also the whole geopolitical situation, right? It's very clear that all the companies, workers, even like in universities or even any companies need to really pivot to adapt this new environment, new model, and pick up new skills. SUTD actually has prepared well. It has a very distinctive methodology focus on design as well as active collaborative learning, hands-on, as I mentioned, multidisciplinary focus. And key thing is really focus on real-world problems. So the first question to our student and alumni is, how do you feel your experience, your education in CSD and SUTD has prepared you for such an environment in terms of education, in terms of the skills you learn? Maybe we can start with Edward.
Okay. So for CSD, okay, previously when I was in, it's called ISTD. I would believe it has already been covered inside the video that you all just watched recently. It is that the pillar actually provides me with the tools to have a basic foundation for me when I entered the workforce, to easily pick up things that I need to solve the problems that I'm facing in my career. One of the good thing about that was also the design thinking philosophy that was ingrained in me. When I entered it, we went in with a more I went in with a more problem-solving mindset, and I think that definitely helped me in my career in solving the problems that I face when I face any problems.
Sorry, James, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. I'm a senior in ISTD now. For my experience so far, since during the pandemic, all the online lessons, right? I think we didn't compromise on the quality of projects and the quality of teamwork and adaptability that we can still culture inculcate in our lessons. And in that way, I feel that especially as a lot of the software companies and a lot of the companies out there, they are trying to adopt like a hybrid model. I feel that as ISTD graduates, I think that we are fully prepared to be able to go into the industry because we are trained to be adaptable in this situation. Yeah.
Thank you, James. To elaborate a bit more, let me see. Okay. So as what actually James have mentioned, a big part of SUTD curriculum, whether it's in SUTD or in ISD or CSD degree, is this design philosophy. So we really have a very in-depth, concrete way of educating students all the way from freshman through once they come to the pillar or the projects. So essentially, it's important that the real problems now involve society, culture, environment, sustainability, human. So you actually design solutions, IT solutions or computing solutions that really can solve this. So that's just one I want to elaborate a bit. This I will just skip. Just to clarify, sometimes you hear what is CSD, ISTD. It's ISTD pillar. Within the ISTD, we have this computer science and design degree. So it's like a major. So what as James and even Edward has mentioned is to incorporate this design thinking with computer science. This is very unique. If you look at all the degrees in Singapore, probably it's just pure computer science or computer engineering. This is important because we want to develop new way of looking at computing and integrate this system design and design thinking philosophy. Okay, so I will move to the next question, which is because we have industry partners here. So the next question is CSD graduates have found employment in a variety of industry. Software in Google, Facebook, IBM, both in Singapore and in US. Government agencies, DSTA, GovTech, CSA, Finance, JP Morgan, KPMG, Citi. In fact, CSA has recruited fresh graduates from SUTD as well as graduates from different universities all over the world. So just a question for the industry. Do you see any distinct attributes or capabilities of our students, our graduates, which are different from graduates from other universities, or what are the attributes that you feel are important when you hire new graduates?
Sure. So I think, Tony, you touched on a couple of important points, right? When you think of solving real problems in real world, it's not just about the technology and how do you use just the technology. It's also about how do you understand the problem statement, the needs of the customers. I mean, when we think from a banking perspective, it is about the needs of the customers or the need of the staff to deliver the best experience for the customers. You start from the design thinking process, from a client-centric approach, and work your way back towards how and what technology will you use to solve that problem. And that's super important. And I think learning that upfront in a college, in school, is super important, and actually being more successful when you actually come into a client-centric organization. So hopefully that gives you the perspective, but I think that value and that knowledge and skill set being developed upfront, when it translates back into industry, really makes a difference. The second thing that I really feel helps is the interactions that you have with industry, having the right people involved in the curriculum creation. I know we spent a couple of days last year going through the curriculum creation, all of us together. So I think that's super key in ensuring that you are already at the edge of everything that's being taught in the school. So my 2 cents.
Thank you, Japan.
Hi, I'm Sun Chia from CSA, Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore. So I'll speak from my personal encounters with SUTD graduates. Over the years, we have actually a couple of SUTD graduates in my divisions. Well, I just speak about my encounters with them. Well, I mean, overall, CSA, there are more SUTD graduates, but unfortunately, during COVID period, I think we have less interactions with them. But I have to say that I'm really impressed with the SUTD graduates that I've encountered with. And they have actually exhibited a number of attributes, 3 attributes I will just sum up that I'm impressed. Essentially, the ability actually to dive deep, the ability to think laterally, and actually the ability to actually engage collaboratively. To think deep, I think this is really, I mean, the staff that I actually, the graduates that I came across, they are not limited by, I mean, they can easily handle broadly defined scope in terms of projects, which is very important in dealing with emerging technology. And they have a great sense of inquisitiveness and actually a very exploratory approach, like what I think Edward mentioned earlier on, actually a very problem-solving kind of perspective. I think that actually comes from perhaps, I think, the early exposure in SUTD on R&D, research and development. Actually, we provide them actually good foundations to explore technology deeply. And I think that bodes well, I think, with SUTD in terms of as a research university of excellence. In certain area, I mean, one big area was led by Prof. Tony himself, and they're going to actually establish this future comms platform as a research center of excellence in SUTD. At the same time, there's also this water test bed that I think you saw in the video, which actually is an excellent, one of its kind facility in the university, actually to actually look at operational technology, industrial control systems, resilience in terms of like network design as well as for cybersecurity. The other area, the other attribute is the ability to think laterally. I think that really comes from the pedagogy that I think was mentioned by Japan as well, about the design-centric thinking and about the interdisciplinary perspective. That gives actually the graduates actually a broader sense, which means that actually beyond just the technical aspect, they're actually able to think more widely in terms of like the real world implications and value proposition. And that aligns the technology back actually to real world relevance. And thirdly is actually the ability to communicate and engage collaboratively. And that is really as a result of, I think, the deep integration and engagement of SUTD, I think with the ecosystem around Changi area. I think there's a Changi Innovation Hub that actually leverage on the aviation industry, the financial industry, as well as the healthcare industry. And I think that 3 attributes actually speaks volumes of the quality of graduates that SUTD produced.
Thank you, Japan. So just to add a few points. Sometimes our parents do ask why we do not focus directly to your computer curriculum from day one. So it's essentially, you can think of how do you actually train students with this system thinking and design thinking philosophy so that they don't see themselves as just a computer scientist. So that
have to rechange our curriculum in a way that the freshman curriculum is important. The freshman curriculum bring all the students from different backgrounds together, do different projects, have this different perspective, and that's very important to do that. That is one. Working in industry, yes, we work very closely with industry, what Sun Chia has mentioned. We work with companies, not just students do internship, but in fact, we invite senior management from, let's say, from CT, from CSA, to look at our curriculum. How do we shape our curriculum so that it's up to date? So that we train our students when they graduate, they actually are, companies want them because they are well-trained. All right. So that one I will elaborate. So another point, I guess I will explain earlier. A lot of parents will say, well, how are you different from just a pure computer scientist? I'll just elaborate just a few points. The design thinking concept is not just one class, right? Some AU would have one design thinking course in year one, but then that's it. This is embedded throughout the curriculum of 4 years. The system thinking, the multidisciplinary design through all the projects are important. And of course, HAS is important because you're actually designing something for human use, the humanities perspective, the cross-modular. So these are a few points that make our students, graduates unique. So in terms of time, let's move to the next question, which is also related to my chart just now. So there's various universities in Singapore, many universities, NUS, NTU, SMU, SIT, SUSS, that offers computing programs because it's really hot now, right? All the companies want computer graduates. Could you share, particularly our students and alumni, what is unique about the CSD program in SUTD and what made you choose SUTD over the other local institutions? Yeah, maybe Edward.
All right. When I first joined, so I'm from the pioneer batch of SUTD. What really interested me when I first took the leap to come into SUTD was really the unique pedagogy. So there are two focus. One of it was on design, as well as the other one, which is the more hands-on approach to solving problems. That means like it was promised that we're gonna have more interesting real-life projects to work on. In fact, during my final year, we actually worked with industries. My project in particular was on smart locks with Samsung. This unique part of working across the different. So in my team, it wasn't only the computer scientists, but like there were also like people from the architectural delivery part and also the engineering. We all worked together to try and deliver a project such as the smart lock, because that smart lock requires not only computing, it requires product design from the engineering product team. It also requires a lot of architectural thinking on how we can best place the smart lock into the door to solve whatever problems that we wanted to solve. So that was really very good. It was a chance where we work across different. I mean, your project is not only within your own what's it called, faculty, but across the different pillars as well. And you really got to see what other pillars are thinking about when they give their inputs to the project statement, to the problem statement. And that's like real life, where everyone actually have their own perspective. And out there, when we're working right now, everyone have their own take on it. And you really got to understand their perspective and work to a workable solution. And I thought that was really great. Something that I think is quite unique in SUTD.
Thank you, James.
To add on to what Edward has mentioned, right? So I feel that SUTD, when I came into SUTD, I believe that SUTD provided me with a sense of ownership over all my projects, and also the culture of collaboration, cross-disciplinary collaboration, as what Edward has mentioned. Like it is very important for us to be able to understand the different perspectives from the different pillars, from the different domains of expertise, so that we can understand the systems perspective, basically, of the project, and then we address the problem properly while not compromising on the different aspects, the trade-offs, the various trade-offs, the disadvantages, the advantages of the of the solutions that we propose, because once you push a solution out there, then you might not be able to take it back. So before we create a solution, we consider all this, and I think that's one very important component that draws me to SUTD. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Edward and James. I think besides study, right, as you come to universities, you also want to have fun, you want to have an exciting university life. So maybe, James, Edward, you can share your experience, whether it's fifth row or non-academic student life, anything exciting.
I can share first. So my fifth role in SUTD was the SAW, it is a robotics club. So in the robotics club, we basically explore different robotics concepts that are quite advanced, and we play around with these robots that we were able to create. We ideate and take inspiration from other projects outside there, and we try to create our own version of it. So to share more, so I was in the SUT Doruko project. So it's like a version of Stanford Dogo. So Stanford created like a quadruped robot whereby it is able to backflip. So I was in that project, and I was part of the developing that robot. And I feel that on top of the usual curriculum that we learn, being able to explore these different domains in the robotics component, right? I feel that it's something that is much more enriching, and I feel that I learned a lot from my experience back then. Yeah.
Edward?
Yeah, so for myself, being a pioneer student, I actually had the unique opportunity to found the club. So I actually helped found probably one of the biggest club and still existing in SUTD right now, which is a dance derivative. We call it DDZ. It's the dance club. So yeah, that was my fifth role, which we call it like in other words, the extracurricular activities. And yeah, I really enjoyed my time. Founding the club, of course, has its unique challenges as well. Logistics, recruitment, and all that. And that really provided all these soft skills that you probably would not have learned if you were just doing studying. Yeah.
Thank you. I think there's a lot of opportunities. You can think of forming clubs as like a startup, right? So that experience, that whole overall training will also strengthen you in a different perspective. So another question also related to this post-COVID world which we are starting to live in. So I mean, our graduates are going to start their careers in a very different environment. The business industry, the landscape will change dramatically. The job scope of certain traditional roles have changed already, as well as the demands of certain skills. And new tech like 5G, metaverse, all these are all coming. So particular to our industry, do you have any advice for our students who are really preparing for a career, especially those parents or even students now who are deciding which university or which degree they're going to embark? How do they prepare for a career or starting their companies in this new world? And what kind of new skill set do you think is required for this new world?
Yeah. Okay, but just maybe, I thought earlier conversation was quite interesting. Maybe just let me add, I think, to the richness of the SUTD curriculum. I think I've been a R&D partner with SUTD, and I think the way I see them run the water test bed and all that, I think it's just beyond just the technical academic concept about realizing security by design. But actually, they actually help like exercise blue team, red team, actually to make that technology, that learning more exciting and coming to life. And they even engage like industry partners to put the technology and test it against these like offensive, defensive kind of situations, which actually make learning a lot more exciting. And I actually commend SUTD actually for that. And I think moving ahead, I think particularly in my area, for example, cybersecurity, I think there's a paradigm shift. It is now from the peripherals to the core, and in the larger picture of computer science. I think There are two attributes. I think first, anybody that want to come into computer science really need to have the passion, right? Really need to have the passion actually to drive and have a dream actually to drive the digital future. I think with that passion, I think you will find coming to computer science really interesting. And at the same time, you must have this insatiable appetite actually to learn and continuous learning and have that inquisitiveness actually to find out those things that are new. And I think that's really because I think the emerging technology is actually evolving at such a dynamic pace. And these are the two things that actually I think you need to have as actually you start your career. But don't worry, especially for cybersecurity, right? Even beyond your career, even beyond your course in SUTD, already I think in CSA, for example, we actually have an 18-month cybersecurity development program, which help to actually bridge the gap between the graduation course and the industry to bring you through internship, on the job kind of training, actually to upskill yourself to assimilate into the industry and the ecosystem.
No, I think what you mentioned completely makes sense. I think if I was thinking in today's world, as we start thinking of entering industry, right, what starts becoming important is so one, obviously you need to know your skill sets, you need to know what you are doing. Collaboration has become very, very different than what we were used to. People getting into a room, getting onto a whiteboard, talking through things, talking about how we are going to solve real world problems has changed a little bit. You need to use tools like Zoom, you need to use tools like Slack or Teams or whatever you are used to actually start solving the problems in a very different collaboration model. You do need to put planned time aside to make it happen. And some of this will have to be learned through even how courses are taught in the current world, how you do collaborations on projects, how do you work on industry projects together, will have to help support it as you move forward. The other part I will talk about is agility, really bringing agile technology capabilities and tools, right, to actually make it happen. How do you do really stand-ups when you are solving problems together on a daily basis, connecting with your team members across it? Even simple things like peer programming. If you're in computer science and if you're really a developer, you will have to do peer programming. And how do you do peer programming with somebody sitting on a Zoom call or a video call or Teams, whatever you're using, right? So use of tools, capabilities, somewhat patience, and collaboration is going to be critical as you move forward in the new world, if I may.
Thank you. Okay, so I can assure you that the CSD degree combines technology and design, right? So it's important, so there's industry relevant, specialization, design thinking that will meet all the new challenges. This I will just skip. You actually can, if you're interested, you can actually go outside the booth. They will actually have details on what are the core classes, the elective classes. The elective classes will actually have tracks. So their tracks are tailored in a way to align you with the skill set and the different projects so that you can go into industry. We also created a software engineering track because of a strong interest in the industry, want to have a software engineers locally trained. So that will be a track that we also have. And I will add a few slides to show what is exciting for post-COVID, particular in our program. Essentially, you can look at coming to CSD, you have a whole package of this digital competency right from the start. In freshman, there's programming, you work at data analytics, analytical tools, AR, VR, AI. So students will have opportunities to go through all this. There's an AI program at the university level that we are actually heading. So we actually have a GPU cluster set up for students to work on their fifth row projects, their research project, and also their own fifth row. And what Sun Chia has really mentioned, this Future Comms program, we are building up by August a private 5G network that is connected to drone applications, robotic applications, our security test bed, Metaverse will be also one of them. Hopefully, I invite you to come and visit us once things are set up, because this is going to drive Singapore in the next decade, because connectivity and communications is important. We hope that students can involve. So this is also what is exciting, where computer science will also connect to this, to communications. And with that, I'll move on to the Q&A session. So we have some questions on the web. Let me see, I will... Okay, so there's questions that are there any programming requirement to get into CSD? And if I have none, would I be disadvantaged? Maybe just Edward or James?
Okay, I can share more. So about programming requirements, there are no programming requirements to go into CSD. That's because in your freshman year, you will be exposed to an introduction to Python programming. So you will get the fundamentals in the freshman year, the common year, and then if you feel that you are particularly interested in programming, then you can go to a CSD. So you won't be disadvantaged if you don't know any programming languages. And maybe just to elaborate a bit more, maybe to consider that programming languages are just tools that you use, so that you don't get too particularly fixated on whether you understand a specific programming languages, or because those are just tools that you use to translate your concepts to the machine. Yeah.
Okay, so I think there's another question. Say that, oh, there's many tracks. There's like AI, there's data analytics, there's AI, there's software engineering track being offered in CSD and also in other universities. So, so the question is, do employers prefer a graduate with a very deep and specialized or a general degree in computer science? Maybe I can get Japan or Suncha to answer this.
Yeah, I can start, and I'm sure Suncha will have a thought process as well. So I think the need, if I look at it from a city or from a banking perspective, I think the need is across both the spectrums. There is need in specialized areas like machine learning, artificial intelligence, data analytics, where we are really trying to look at various customer behaviors, various data from a cybersecurity point of view, fraud prevention, right? There's a lot of that in the news today. How do you actually ensure all of that? There we need specialization of machine learning, artificial intelligence, understanding the problem statement of customer behavior, and using that to apply it. But in addition to that, there are various areas beyond things like building out digital applications, building out services that we can offer to the customers. So there is a wide spectrum of needs across the industry. And my take would be that either direction you go, the most important part is problem solving. How do you take a real problem and how do you solve it? And technology and capabilities will be tools. They will keep evolving as time evolves. And you will just have to be keeping on top of it and learning it. But really, problem solving is at the heart of the whole thing, in my 2 cents.
Yeah, I totally agree with Japan. Actually, those two areas are actually equally important. We need really deep specialists. For example, in the area of AI, I mean, what is utmost in our mind as the AI systems is being proliferated as part of our drive for a smart nation is like, well, we must make sure that there's no snake oil. You know, everybody is claiming that their system is AI. We also must make sure that these AI actually are not susceptible to cybersecurity attacks. And so all these need special, deep skill, I mean, people with deep skills. Or in the area of pen testing, product evaluation. I mean, many of today's cyber attacks have the genesis on perhaps a product vulnerability and all that. And we need deep specialists trained in the methodology, trained in the skills actually to discover such vulnerabilities. But at the same time, we need people who actually drive like standards, right? To drive, to raise the ecosystems and actually to create opportunities and branding opportunities for our companies. We need actually to drive the ecosystem development at the industry level and all that. So I mean, really, you must ask yourself what drives your passion, and I think there's a large playground. Thanks.
Would you have anything or?
Yeah, so I think I can add on from my perspective that I've also seen. I think there are a lot of roles out there, and each role actually requires different knowledge and skill sets. So as what was mentioned earlier, actually there are some roles that really require deep technical skills, so you really need the deep skills to really perform in that role. But there are also other roles that really requires you to be a lot more lateral, that you have to think more on the lateral side of things and how you can integrate into the systems. So I believe this is the same in all industries. There are always spaces and roles for you to do generalist, and also spaces for you to go deep dive and deep into the very deep technical knowledge that is required for you to perform in that role. It's a very large playground out there right now in the industry. Every company is moving to digital, and both roles are open. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I think because just now we have some discussion of this metaverse. So because Japan is from Citi, because recently JP Morgan also moved into this metaverse. So you can imagine this area would not just be tech. It was actually beyond tech. There's policy, there's security, there's a human factor. I think you will require skill sets actually both vertical and lateral. And someone who is very agile can go and adapt into this area. So this is actually exciting new area. Okay, so I sidetracked a bit. So there's another question. Is if after the 3 common terms, right, there are a lot of students wanting to apply to CSD. You know that in SUTD, you come in for first 3 terms. It's a common, then you choose your pillar. So the question is that is there a criteria to choose the students? Is there a sort of a threshold? That means students choose CSD, but they cannot get in. Maybe I can get. I have the answer, but I can get maybe James or Edward to answer.
Okay, so as far as I know, there is no requirements, there is no thresholds that you have to satisfy to go into CSD. Basically, in term 3, when you indicate your chosen pillar, it's like 99% you'll get the pillar that you want. So far, I don't think.
Or it's not 100%.
So far, I don't think all of my friends got it.
Yeah.
So effectively, as long as you choose it, indicate it, and then you will get it. Yeah.
So it's a similar experience as well for myself. During my year, everyone got into the pillar that they wanted to after the 3 terms.
Yeah, so I think the answer is actually you get whichever pillar you want after you come in. So, and also the purpose of this fresh more terms is important. First of all, you give you a lateral perspective to system thinking and design training. Then you actually see whether is this the right degree you want to go to. CSD, you may, after 3 terms, you want to move to other EPD or ESD. So there's time for you to look at what you are really good at after you try many things. So it's important. University is a place for you to try, to look at your potential and your limit and what you like and don't like. And it's not what your parents like or don't like. I think it's important as an adult, okay? I sidetrack a bit, okay? So we have time for questions. I will want to open up the questions to the floor. If there are any questions, you can raise up your hand. I think there's a microphone over there. Then we can answer based on our knowledge. Any questions from the audience? No questions?
So if there are no questions, actually I can add on to the previous point previously on about the freshman year. I actually had friends who came into SUTD initially very set on a particular pillar. So they initially wanted to go into, say, architecture pillar. But after going through the fresh module, which exposes you to all the different pillars, they realized that perhaps this pillar wasn't really what they envisioned it to really be, and they actually changed tracks. So I would say this fresh module is really important for you to really understand what you like and dislike, and really know whether you're in it is for you or not. So like I would know, like, I think a lot of people, because CSD right now is the hottest thing, right? Everyone would just come in and just want to go into CSD. The fresh module is actually a good opportunity for you to really see if, because you'll be exposed to programming, and really see if actually this is something that you would like to do and study in. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe with time I can elaborate more on this, maybe the future comms. Then I also can pass on to the Japan and Sun Chia to share some of their exciting things. So this is an exciting program that is actually SUTD is hosting. So this is what is actually different. You heard a lot of 5G news around the news about 5G test bed in different places. What is actually unique is that this is actually a softwareization 5G network. So essentially, you can imagine in the future, you actually can build your own 5G network using commodity equipment, just like a Wi-Fi network, without an operator. So it's something called private network. Why do you want to do that? Because in the future, 5G and beyond, connectivity will be used for different vertical services. Could be in your factory, could be in your home, could be in your... So once you build up your own network, essentially what is actually exciting is you have your data with you. Instead of the data have to go to another operator and so on. So you actually can build your end-to-end services and deploy at a much faster and low cost and much faster rate. So the whole goal of this program that we are setting up this test bed, which is the first test bed, here students get to actually play with this equipment. So actually you can do a lot of exciting, even startup. You can also look at this vulnerability of this system. This is likely, as we look at this is likely going to be the new direction that 5G and beyond is heading. So I think this is a new area that we want the students. Traditionally, this is usually in a double E and not in computer science, but definitely AI and connectivity will come together down the road in 10 years. So this center is actually parked under the SUTD AI program. So what I want to share is that a lot of things we are doing are really front end, and we work closely with many industry, whether it's CSA and government agency, even companies. Yeah, so this is about future comms. I think we have time. If no questions, maybe you want to share something which is exciting now?
Maybe just a kind of a sharing in terms of the vibrancy of this space about computer science, and actually more specifically about cybersecurity. I also oversees the Center of Cybersecurity Certification Center, and as I mentioned, actually today the genesis of many of the attacks out there are because of a product where there's a vulnerability that's waiting to be exploited and all that. So this is quite an important area, and one of our initiatives is the cybersecurity labeling scheme for the consumer IoT, and that has been launched. And actually, if you go to smart stores and smart home solutions companies and all that, you'll see many of these labeled products out there. Importantly, this is actually one of the this is the among the first of its scheme. In fact, it's the first world scheme, a multi-level labeling scheme. And maybe unknown to you all, actually, Singapore is one of only the 18 certification body that actually can issue a certificate for IT product security, known as common criteria, which is actually a golden standard. I think this is the level of kind of vision and the kind of expertise that we have locally, and that's really an exciting area that I think if you join CSD, actually, that's one area of expertise you can train in. And if you stretch yourself into, further areas, there are like the advent of quantum computing, if you're really excited about it. And actually, that's going to change cryptography from a difficult maths problem to a physics-based kind of cryptography. And it will actually incapacitate current mode of cryptography. So, if you're really like deep tech, I think this is one area to get into as well. And and these are just two of the exciting areas that we are getting ourselves into.
Yeah, maybe elaborate on Suncha. Although we don't have like quantum computing center like what NUS, actually we will have a quantum node also. So actually it's packed together with the comms and connected to the west side, the NUS. So why you want to, because imagine in the future, you want to exchange information over the backbone network, optical fiber, but you want to do it securely over using quantum key distribution. So you actually can do experiment over that, connecting your 5G app over to a safe backbone and over to another place. So this is something we hope. So what is actually different now is that a lot of these programs will incorporate with your education and research so that our newer generation can get involved much early stage. This is actually what the whole philosophy, whether it's government or even SUTD or CSD is trying to do. So we have any questions from the audience? No? Anything you want to share, Edward? Something exciting?
Not really anything exciting, but I just thought that from a perspective of an alumni, the CSD program itself has really evolved and changed a lot, and I really like that. It's very forward-looking because it doesn't stay the same. It doesn't stay the same for 10, 20 years. It's always constantly moving. On the digital era right now, it's constantly evolving. There are new talks about the new metaverse that are coming up. There are new talks about blockchain recently, since 2018, the hype about blockchain, and all these new vulnerabilities that's being found. Even recently, there were vulnerabilities found in the Elasticsearch, in the Log4j vulnerability. There's so many things that is constantly evolving, and I like it that the curriculum is really constantly evolving and forward-looking. And in fact, some of these things that I'm hearing about, it makes me really wants to come back and go through it again. It's like as a student, I would say it's a very exciting opportunity. It's very good. Yeah.
Thank you, Edward. Any final questions from the audience? Let me see anything from the. Okay. So I think there's one common questions that the students, some of these have asked, is that if I have zero background in computing, would it be a challenge if I come to CSD? Will I not get selected or admitted? I can answer first, then I can pass to James or Edward. Actually, it's no. So the freshman curriculum, as I mentioned, will help you because there is actually 2 terms. Term 1, you'll learn the basic of Python. Then in term 3, you'll expand your knowledge on that, continuation of that, and apply it to data science. So there's actually 2 modules in freshman that help you to do that. And because it's a very collaborative environment, a lot of students are actually involved in 5th row. They can strengthen their computing knowledge. Then subsequently, when you come to the pillar or the CSD curriculum, I think because our community is very small, so the students actually work together, collaborate, and learn from each other. So there's no challenge. In fact, the graduate that I've mentioned just now in the video, she actually has zero background when she joined ISTD at that time. And at that time, she has zero background in programming, not very strong, but subsequently, she still became a a VP related to security at a top banking company. Yeah. So with that, I thank you for all your attention and all your time, and hope you have a safe weekend and enjoy the rest of the day. And thank you for the speakers and alumni and our industry partners and students. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Prof. Quek. Thank you, Mr. Mehta, Mr. Lim, Edward, and James. And thank you for joining us for the Ask CSD session. If you are attending the CSD design workshop, please exit the auditorium, head over to the library, and you can meet the guides at the campus tour booth who will lead you to the workshop room at Think Tank 16. With that, we have come to the end of the programs here in the auditorium for SUTD Open House. The booths outside are still open, so go ahead, ask people for their personal perspective, because I feel that offers a much richer perspective on what it is, what it means to be part of SUTD. A gentle reminder to submit your applications by March 19th. And you don't know what the future will hold unless you take that first step. With that, once again, thank you for joining us today at SUTD Open House 2022.